Obviously these businessmen are under the flank of Farid, and they have realized that Sumo doesn't want them to play those dark things at this moment. It's a pity that they still want to create some pressure on Sumo like before, and let Sumo understand their inner thoughts. This kind of behavior is indeed very dangerous, and it is indeed unbearable. It seems that after things reach this point, the situation begins and gradually becomes very unfriendly. At first, the controlled businessmen began to bow their heads to Sumo and looked at Sumo with a very special look. They finally couldn't figure out what was wrong and made Suli so angry. Saint. We do have a tendency to want the foundation of the name of the cave, but we finally restrained ourselves. We all seemed very calm when we were doing things. I hope you will not continue to be angry because of such an incident. Because being angry can put us all in a very bad situation, you know that. It's been a long time since I heard someone speak so frankly in front of him, but Sumo laughed instead. For a while, he felt that the opponent was just trying to test himself. Then they quickly used their own means to make them suffer a big loss. When this power almost bombarded them, each of them had no way to relax. The reason why Sumo did this was to suppress them and tell them who was right and who was wrong. When he did this, Sumo's heart was actually very calm, because he now knew what he could do. Get everything done, without any mistakes. When I saw you like this, I was very happy. After I couldn't beat me in front of me, I conceded defeat on the spot and showed a pitiful appearance, but who knows how talented you are. What about the worst wave of evil? After Sumo finished speaking, his face was obviously more angry than before, which was a very serious signal. Farid also understood Sumo's idea at this time, and he also had a kind of meaning that he wanted to go forward to persuade Sumo. In his opinion, these things are always useful, and it will be a big deal sooner or later. Trouble. Saint. I advise you to think twice. These guys look bad, but I still think they can be our friends, the kind of friends who can at least help each other. Farid's words are very candid. He knows that Sumo might not listen to him, but he still speaks because he doesn't want Sumo to get into some kind of pain. Farid's words seemed to play a role at this moment, and Sumo also knew that it would be good for him to destroy all the people in these business groups. The downside is that after a lot of hard thinking, Sumo decided to impose a gemstone tax on these business groups, but they came to do business on their own side. For material storage or people who want people to help them avoid disasters, everyone has to pay a tax of 30 gems. This is indeed not a small amount for the caravan, but then again, it is indeed impossible. Those evil people around the business group were really afraid of Sumo's intimidation, and they all honestly began to choose to do things in their own way. Of course, there may be a lot of trouble in it, not in front of them and within the range that can be seen. Sumo is still waiting quietly. Because he knows that now he will definitely be able to let those who really want to show their evil appearance show their strength in front of him, but all this will take time. This may also be a trap that he deliberately set, just to let some people fall directly into his hands and then do other things on their own. But it was at this critical moment that Farid and his long-haired monster scouts discovered the enemy's declaration of war on the periphery. Without thinking, they communicated the information they had learned with Sumo, hoping that Sumo could find a way to see how to solve this kind of incident. Saint. We don't have any intention of delaying in front of you, it's just that this kind of troublesome things are starting to go beyond our limits. If we continue to let this situation continue in disguise, I'm afraid it's something you can handle, and we also, if you can't bear it, then you'll be in big trouble. What kind of words are said to be happier? I really did not expect the threat and darkness in the periphery to expand rapidly at this moment. There is indeed something good happened. Sumo is not in a hurry, but quickly thinks about the information and special circumstances left in his brain. If he can combine all this information and intelligence, it's a good thing for him. He didn't show a worried and anxious look on purpose. On the contrary, he sighed to himself, and there was more magnanimity in his expression. I have long expected that the situation will develop like this, but I didn't expect it to be so quick to say that now you, Farid, would you like to lead your long-haired monsters to fight with them first? If there is anything wrong with the situation, it's appropriate. You have to bring people back, at least that's safe. For Farid, Sumo's words were like a blow to the head. After listening to these words, Farid was very anxious. He understood that Sumo had no bad intentions. But he knew very well that his subordinates might be torn apart in desperation. At this moment, Farid immediately asked Sumo if he could do something else instead of going forward in such a way. Saint, you know a lot of things better than I do. Is it your way to let my people suffer like this? Farid said these words as a last resort. He felt that Sumo was deliberately torturing his subordinates, and it was clear that Sumo could let others go in this fight. But Sumo let his subordinates rush forward. Farid felt a little pain in his heart for a while in the face of this kind of problem. This kind of pain was unpredictable by others. Sumo didn't say much, but waved to Farid not to look so sad. He didn't let anyone pay the price of life for something. It's just that Sumo himself prefers to make an entry point from the side when he thinks about some things. For him, those with strong abilities are first come, first served. Do you guys think of me as someone who wants you to die? Farid, what I'm thinking about is that with your strength, it will be very easy to solve this kind of problem, can't it be you? Sumo's questioning made Farid feel a lot of uncomfortable feelings about it, but there was really no way, even at this juncture. The long-haired monster group is a powerful group that I want to cultivate with great care. I don't want you all to be so sad in front of me. After speaking like this, Sumo's attitude was much quieter than before. Of course, Sumo also knew that if he had a fever, he probably wouldn't take this set at all, and it was also possible that this kind of thing was of no use to him. But what Sumo didn't expect was the thoughtful Farid, whose expression became calmer than before, more precisely, a very indifferent look. He thinks that Sumo may have some truth in what he said. After a while, Farid revealed that the review is special, like Sumo promised that they can complete this task, although the cost will be a bit high, but he will do your best. Saint, after I know what you mean, I think I should be able to lead my people to do something. You can rest assured, at least on some levels I will not make you so angry. This is we can solve all kinds of problems together, can't we? Farid is not stupid. If this good opportunity is given to others, how can he continue to stand up in front of Sumo in his life in the future? At the same time, Farid began to quickly contact his other fighters, and informed them of the incident that might happen next, so that they could be prepared. This is almost not far from what Sumo thought, and Farid is about to move his hands now. Of course, Sumo also showed a very proud look. It seems that Sumo urged Farid to do so on some level, but it was not the case. It was Sumo who was the driving force behind the scenes to make them understand how important it is to be strong. From the side, it is enough to prove how arrogant Sumo is in his heart. There is a reason why he doesn't want to shoot himself. The will of the world is fragile enough. Although it is said that the recovery is fast, it is compared with Sumo's strength. The will of the world is simply a weak existence, and if it is a little careless, it will fall into the darkest destruction again. At that time, how can all this be carried by them? Besides, Sumo has more ideas in his heart, and it is also more special. He has already prepared a certain kind of perseverance to let his heart get a real break in the shortest time. Think. With such an idea, he would like to do more things in the future than before, and then Sumo began to operate quickly. Begin to allow Farid's hairy monsters to respond more when facing hostile dangers. This is what a real strong person should do. Although Sumo also knew that doing so might be very stressful, but for him, he really had no choice but to wait until the enemy came to the door to do something else. Isn't this a joke too? Sumo knew better than anyone what the truth was that he had to face, and the orc boy quickly came to Sumo after Farid set off. Asked Sumo if he had just let him do some things alone. Sumo also knew that this guy had jealousy in his heart. He did not explain but told the world with some innocuous words, the boy should calm down now. Are you the same as, when you do something, you should learn to be silent as much as possible. Without my order, without my permission, you can't ask anything, you just need to know. It's enough that some things happen when you don't pay attention. If you really have any doubts in your heart, you can continue to ask me. I can help you solve and explain what I will say. Sumo really has nothing to say about the behavior of the orc kid, and this guy may just be showing some kind of dynamic in front of himself. But Sumo doesn't have any good ideas now. After all, in Sumo's view, they may just want to compare each other a little bit. Some bad things start to become dangerous in the process of comparison. Everyone can understand this. At the same time, Sumo began to make some kind of unique contact with him in his own more alternative way. This kind of contact can almost be called a kind of perfect existence. Sumo began to let his heart gradually reveal meanings that ordinary people can't think of on a higher level. In his opinion, this may be the best way to succeed, but it will also cost him a small price for it. Nothing to be afraid of. Now that you are ready, you should make this kind of thing faster. Get better. Sumo did say all these things that should be said in his own way. Of course, this can be regarded as a good thing. At least on another level, he is more helpful to his subordinates than any other now. People are huge. But there are some more dangerous things that Sumo didn't make clear to them directly. That is, will there be more bad things happening at this last juncture? It's a very anxious feeling right now, and of course Sumo knows better than anyone that his behavior might cause them some kind of damage. But it will never make the problem so uncomfortable. With Sumo's current practice, some situations will indeed be a little stressful, but he does not have any superfluous attitude. Farid is one of the only powerful main forces he needs to cultivate now. Only after Farid becomes stronger, can some things become easier. Orc Boy and Chiron are the second and third step to become stronger. This is in line with their reality and not let them all rush forward. To become stronger, first of all this is impossible, and secondly, because such a thing will happen even more threatening, what will Sumo do then? That's a big question. Farid did not live up to Sumo's expectations, and he began to solve it again at his fastest speed, consuming all those problems in a short period of time. Let all those evil people who wanted to create panic in front of Sumo be dealt with, and Farid knew very well that what he did was really giving Sumo face, and he didn't hide it. Instead, I found Sumo to show off to Sumo everything I could get, and gave Sumo the existence I got now. To be precise, these are spoils of war. Saint. This is a ton of precious stones. Those evil groups outside have so many good things in their hands. I never imagined that they are like that. They are flashy but useless. There is nothing real at all. His strength can hurt us, not to mention even pathetic. Farid was very happy to give all the gems to Sumo, for his face was full of special attitude, and he hoped that Su Yu would be satisfied with this city. But what I didn't expect was that Sumo just smiled coldly, saying that this is normal, he has already budgeted, so it is not surprising that such a thing happened. I knew this would happen a long time ago, but I didn't expect those guys to be so timid. I thought they would be some powerful fighters. I never thought that there would be such an existence in front of us. Speaking of which, Farid, do you have any other ideas? Or in the future, you want to lead your long-haired monsters to fight frequently, so that they can experience it? What is real madness? After Sumo's words were spoken, he looked at Farid with a very unique look, but the latter was very calm. This is already what he expected. He explained to Sumo what he should do when he has the opportunity, or going out often can make his men stronger after fighting. This is what he really wants to do now. Saint. What else can I say? If I have the opportunity to make my number stronger, this is a good thing in itself, and you don't need to worry about the rest of the problems. But for anything that I can control now, I will let someone take control of it in the near future, and I will definitely not let him leave a mark on us. After hearing these words, Sumo felt more relieved towards Farid. He knew that Farid was now fully enlightened, and he already knew how to face problems and darkness. This attitude made Sumo very happy. It is moving. Very good. Next I need you to lead the Orc tribe, the Orc Boy, and the Pine Forest tribe of Kailong to experience this feeling of fighting in turn, so that they can realize that they need to become stronger now, or can you do it with the help of others? After Sumo said these words, he looked at the current Farid, but Farid showed a look of indifference. For him, such trivial matters are not even worth mentioning. And he has already prepared himself accordingly, and plans to come to a stronger battle at any time. I don't know how long I've been waiting for this kind of thing, Saint. If you really agree, I can start a new experience anytime, anywhere, don't worry. Whatever I do next will definitely not make you feel uncomfortable or troublesome. Everything is guided by your standards. As long as you want, I can even turn them into strong ones in the shortest time. From a certain state, this can be considered as a very high scale and high quality contact, so that the improvement of the three of them has reached the most reasonable state. At first the Orc Kid and Chiron were very repulsive to this kind of event, but after they really got the power boost. They also all showed their emotions to Sumo, and then they were more willing to work for Sumo, and said that they would be willing to handle anything for Sumo in the future. But this is not what Sumo wants, because Sumo knows that there are many unpredictable existences in their hearts, those evil tribes on the outskirts of the jungle, city-state. Not all obeyed them, there was something more outrageous in it, and they seem to be always on the lookout for opportunities. If the opportunity arises, they will definitely surrender, but if there is no opportunity, these people will not have a good word with you. Faced with this situation, Su wanted Farid to settle them because only in this way could the matter be completely resolved. Farid, on the other hand, showed us that our father was very unwilling, as if in his opinion things had begun to change in an uneasy direction. Saint. Do you mean to let me take people to destroy them myself? The first thing Farid said was that he didn't know Sumo's real intentions, so he needed to ask, and Sumo was very calm. And tell him directly that this is the case, he must now understand the opponent's actions, and then let Farid's spear monsters go to destroy them. You're right. Only you can do such a thing. After killing them, the winning rate will naturally belong to us, and I can also help you more at this moment, so that you can get more for the benefit of Farid. Why not do it? After Sumo's words came to this point, Farid thought for a while, and decided to leave this matter to Beast Boy and Chiron. In Farid's opinion, this kind of thing is no longer difficult for him, and only the Orc Boy and the Armored Dragon are likely to be very painful because of this matter. Saint. Let me tell you the truth, when I solve these problems with my current strength, I don't need to spend any breath at all. But what about Orc Kid and Chiron? They've never fought, and they don't know where the future is for them to have a fight and a crazy 4 kills. I want to be more effective than anything, what do you think? When Farid said these words very calmly, there was also a trace of doubt on his face. Su knew what Farid was thinking. After his tone, he also showed a very helpless appearance, it seemed. The next task is indeed to teach the Orc Boy and Chiron. Therefore, in some respects, these two people are not particularly reliable. At least they are relatively loyal soldiers under their own commanders, and it is not unreasonable for them to deal with some things. After thinking about it, Sumo agreed with Farid's idea and told Farid what would go wrong if he did so. Farid and the others' combat prowess, I can put it aside for the time being, but when they face these things with the attitude in their hearts, it is impossible for them to do well. But I still believe in your intuition. Under your guidance, they must be able to see the future clearly and complete everything. After listening to Sumo's words, Farid couldn't help showing a lot of doubts, but soon he understood what Sumo meant. He obviously doesn't have any big ideas about the current Orc Kid and Chiron Sumo. Saint. Don't worry. The reason why I recommend them to come forward on some levels is because I think they are also useful existences, and they need strength now. It's just that they have been hiding their true strength. After you get in touch with them, you will find that what I said is correct. After Farid said this sentence, he showed a very calm smile, which was mixed with a lot of mystery. Even Sumo couldn't help but wonder if they were deceiving themselves, but it doesn't matter so much now, let them practice, and then they can see their true strength. After the Orc Boy and Chiron got the news of Sumo, their expressions were very complicated. To be honest, fighting was indeed full of danger and madness for them. But if you don't go, isn't it inappropriate? After thinking of this, the little orc took the lead in expressing his opinion, thinking that as a strong orc tribe, it is necessary to bring. The purpose is very simple, that is to follow Sumo's method to encircle and suppress those things on the periphery, and take down all the tribes that do not belong to them and are unwilling to submit to their control for about 2 days. The orc tribe has already reached the most extreme state. They began to exhaust their own methods to deal with many problems at the fastest speed. This speed is almost beyond the imagination of ordinary people. But that's it, not all the problems can be solved in the shortest time. There are still many mistakes on the side of the orc tribe. Through their own methods, while making those tribes completely subject to their control, they also re-engaged them in another kind of oppression. These tribes can be said to be so controlled by the soft but not hard, and they chose to resist with all their strength in the future. Most of the tribal fighters were completely lost under the iron hooves of the Orc Boys. While knowing these situations clearly, Sumo also made certain demands on the Orc Boy, hoping that he would not do things so absolutely. After all, these existences are still very useful. If they follow the way the Orc Boy did before, it will inevitably cause greater harm. At that time, everything will be hard to say. Boy, what you do will indeed be beyond my control. Have you forgotten the methods I taught you before? You need to communicate with them through some reasonable means, which is very important. While Sumo said this, his attitude became extremely serious. The Orc Boy still felt that what he did was not wrong, he just used some special methods to change the situation in front of him. The Orc Boy's attitude towards these captives seemed very bad, and his goal was almost to suppress them so that they would never turn around. However, Sumo showed a very unwilling look to his state. In Sumo's opinion, if the Orc Boy continued to walk like this, the threat he might cause would be even greater. This is that the orcs adjusted their state in the shortest possible time after realizing the mistake of what they did, which has already made the anxiety in their hearts disappear as they should. Under such a kind of behavior, Chiron was very excited. After the Orc Boy finished some things, it was his turn. Saint, shouldn't our Pine Forest tribe also get some more opportunities to become stronger? They all need experience, and everyone needs to change their hearts in the shortest possible time. There are some extremely rigorous elements mixed in Chiron. He doesn't want to let his hands go down, but it becomes very sad because of certain incidents. If he can achieve certain opportunities, his heart will definitely be happy. Sumo looked at Chiron's extremely calm appearance and eager attitude, and knew that he already wanted to practice on the battlefield, but after all, Sumo still suppressed his heart at this time, and tell him it's not that easy. Okay. Don't you know how much you have? If you want me to say that you were doing this shit again, you were wasting your heart. After listening to Sumo's words, Kailong immediately became uncomfortable. He never thought that the situation would be so tormented. Sumo wouldn't give him such a chance, which is a little uncomfortable. Saint. Opportunity should be given or should be given. When a warrior as strong as me is doing something, you should know very well where our opportunity will be taken, where. After Chiron said the words here, his heart was no longer as comfortable as before. But he knew that Sumo was for their own good, and if Sumo really wanted to clean them up, he could do it anytime, anywhere. All the Pine Forest tribe needs to do is to protect our own people. If you don't even understand such a thing, and you need me to remind you more, I really don't dare to say more about your state. What? Sumo recounted such words, and after he said it, his attitude was obviously much better than before. But Chiron is still in a state of unbearable pain. He seems to be clearly aware that Sumo is going to have some other communication with it next, making him do something he doesn't want to do himself. At this point, is there any other way for it to refuse, or to use some of its own methods to change something? In order to add some other motivation to his subordinates, Kailong had no choice but to say other words to Sumo, hoping that Sumo would agree. Saint. We need to experience rather than protect your protection. It is really important to us, but it will also push us to a dead end. We can't continue to be fierce in front of you like before, let alone fight against the enemy. A battle knight. After Sumo heard these words, he sighed instead. He told the current Chiron about his next plan as quickly as possible, hoping that Chiron would not be too anxious. Otherwise, there will inevitably be chaos. I know what you're thinking in your heart now. You want to improve the combat effectiveness of the Pine Forest tribe, but have you ever wondered if their true strength will be as powerful as you imagined? This time, Kailong was indifferent, so he couldn't even say anything after Sumo's remarks. Saint. Maybe you're right. I didn't figure out what I wanted. I just said this sentence in front of you at this time. I hope you don't get angry. Chiron's heart is very painful right now, and he doesn't know how to retell Sumo in some way. But soon Sumo editor gave him another opportunity to rely on this method to deal with some things. In this way, it would be easier and simpler. I can tell you that what comes next is going to surpass you in some way. My expectation is that all the guarantees on Kailong and the business group need to be done by you and Farid, and there should be no problem with these things being handed over to you. It was in such a state that Sumo felt the unnaturalness in their hearts. In other words, the things they are thinking about now are very different from what they are talking about. It is very likely that the two parties cannot negotiate certain things because of such a situation. It was because of this that Su Xing put more pressure on Kailong. The relationship between you and the orc boy is still good, but you must know that there are still many things to do in the relationship, and it will be very troublesome. After Sumo's words came to this point, his expression was much more dangerous than before. It can be seen from his expression that he is very angry now, because the current armored dragon and the orc kid are doing things they shouldn't be doing in front of each other, and they even want to put these dangerous things together. Things get even more extreme further. Saint. First of all, I don't understand what you mean in your words, but if you want me to say, everything we do is for your own good, and no one dares to make a desperate attempt in front of you. Something that shouldn't be done. Chiron didn't try to trouble him, he just felt that things shouldn't be so unnatural, and the attitude he showed when communicating with Sumo was always more melancholy than before. Chiron knew that his words might not be of any use in front of Sumo, but the things that should be said have already been said, and there is no way that something will happen to Suhei because of such an incident. It's a huge conflict. Farid stood up out of time and showed a very helpless look, and he was also full of anxiety about the situation in front of him. For fear of any huge conflict between Sumo and Chiron, as long as the conflict starts, things will be very unfriendly to them. Saint. Some things can be put aside, let's put them aside, we don't need to fight each other because of this situation. In fact, the trouble is like this, and I don't want you to bear anything at this point. After Sumo listened to their words, they now wear a pair of trousers after college and talk like this in front of themselves on purpose. After thinking about this, Sumo laughed instead, acting indifferent. Since they can do this, it means that they have really grown to a very high limit, and they can completely let them do some things in the future. Actually, when I heard you talking like that, I was still disgusted in my heart. I could sense your uneasiness and anger. But I can't see clearly the hopeless feelings written on your cheeks. Well, from now on, you have complete autonomy. After Sumo said such words, everyone now showed a very strange feeling, they couldn't believe it. Kailong and the orc kid were very unfriendly, they always felt that they did something wrong. What made Sumo so angry? So they immediately knelt in front of Sumo, showing a little pious. I hope that Sue will not be angry because of such things. Saint. No matter what happens, don't you suffer so much. We know what we did wrong now. We will work together to solve these problems without making you uncomfortable. Then we will be able to do better, you see. After speaking these words very anxiously, his expression has become very uncomfortable, because he knows that Sumo speaking like this means that they may be abandoned. It's rare to meet someone as powerful as a sage in this life. Now that I can meet such a powerful person, why would I be so stupid? After listening to what they said, Sumo still laughed because of this. It seemed that they were really inseparable from themselves on a certain level. But having said that, will the real situation be the same as what they said now, or maybe there are some other things in it? Seeing that they were so anxious, Sumo continued to appease them, and directly told them what he was going to do next. I hope they can calm down a little bit. Are you thinking too much? I am clearly giving you the opportunity to make some changes on your own. Now you are all talking like this in front of me. It made me a little embarrassed. Those who didn't know thought how I would deal with you guys. Don't act so special in front of me, okay? Don't create any kind of pressure on me at all. It wasn't until this moment that they realized that Sumo had already seen that their growth was stronger than before. That's why they said such words. For a while, Kai Long and the orc kid still didn't realize it, but the current Fa Ret felt melancholy in his heart. He is very clear about what this means, which means that they will have to face some bad things again in the following process, and even rely on their own strength to resist something alone, which is very troublesome. During this period of time, Sumo's subordinates can almost be called quite ferocious existences, and they can perform special ablation with their own methods for any problem and anything. It is definitely impossible for ordinary people to solve all more threats, because Sumo's decentralization allows each of them to have a sense of themselves. He is very frank when he does things. Everything will be handled in the most serious and sincere way, and he will report to Sumo in the future so that nothing will be left behind. At the same time, Sumo is still rapidly training these three groups in elemental power, so that they can control the raw hands and become stronger. Because there will be even more crazy battles waiting for them after this, it is difficult to say when it will start. The elemental power of the warriors of Kai Long's Pine Forest tribe has completely risen to a very high level, and it is many times stronger than before. Sumo is very gratified. Even the goblins will use some healing elemental spells, although the goblins are not particularly popular, but they can still do a lot for Sudi. Those tribes conquered in the periphery, I have completely merged into the hands of the Pinewood City-State, and at the same time, Chiron also has a new idea. He intends to make Songlan Cheng a powerful country, and then he tells Sumo what he thinks in his heart. Saint, for so long, we have been using various methods to make our subordinates stronger, and the training has achieved initial results. If possible, I hope you can let us go alone. What are you doing? Do you like it? When Kai Long said these words, there was also a hint of questioning on his face. Looking at Sumo, who was sitting in the hall, he made a promise. He knew that this matter was inseparable. After listening to his words, Sumo couldn't help frowning, and he was also thinking about what benefits it would bring to him if he did so. But after some consideration, Sumo finally shook his head and said that for Karen's behavior, anything he refused to do had risen to a very dangerous level. What your kid is thinking about now is good. It's perfect to include them all, and make the Pine Forest tribe stronger and bigger, but don't forget how many of those people are regular to you, and they can't wait to ride on your head. This is the appearance of surrender now in front of you. Sumo's words directly pierced the fantasy in Kai Long's heart, and the thoughtful scum was thrown on his face with a sense of unease. It's true. What Sumo said is still right, but after thinking about it, Kai Long once again put forward a new request, and I hope Su Hei can agree. Saint, I can tell you responsibly that what I am doing now is completely based on what may happen next, and I will not include these guys. Then we will suffer a greater catastrophe in the future, and they can directly become our cannon fodder. Of course, this will take a little time. I hope you can believe me, this is definitely a good thing. After Kai Long said the words very anxiously, his expression was not as special as before. But it is a real anxiety and fear of the future. Sumo did not say no, but let him be careful of the traitor Chiron among them, and was very happy after hearing this. But another uneasy thing also began to happen in him, and that is the kind of darkness that may make Chiron worry about it. Just when Kai Long was discussing these things with the blocker, a warrior from the city of Pinewood rushed in and reported to both of them what happened outside. Mr. Kai Long, it's not good, there are some very dangerous things happening outside. It seems that someone wants to use such a method to carry out a more sophisticated attack for us. The business group has already made a mess. After hearing these words, Kai Long laughed instead. In his opinion, no one could cause trouble in front of him at all. Now that there is finally a good show, he did not sit idle, but quickly ordered all the elite elemental warriors in the city-state to be accurate. I don't know who is so courageous. He said that if he doesn't want to live, I think I can still help him. Don't say anything to lead me. After Chiron finished speaking, he immediately followed his warrior out. On the outer street, a very drunk nobleman was swaying back and forth beside him, and dozens of bodyguards had been hostile to the soldiers of the Pine Forest Army. Why do you bastards behave so aggressively in Pinewood City State? We come here to eat and drink for consumption. If you do this, we will be targeted in a while. At the same time, Sumo also stood on the street sign on the main hall and watched the things under the city far away, and he could see the dress on the young man's body, the necklace strung with all kinds of graceful and luxurious gems, as well as the slightly dirty crown on his head. It is enough to prove that he should be a city-state in the periphery, or the purple of the empire or the king. But looking at him like this, it looks more like he came here to escape. The clothes on him and her warriors are extremely dirty, and they must have experienced many things that ordinary people should not experience. Fared, you came forward and brought your people up, and wrapped this poor and desolate cabinet for me. Don't let the people who can't get rid of Song Lien take the lead in attacking it. I think he should be very useful to us. Sumo took the lead in sending a message to Farid through spiritual communication, and asked him to let the warriors of the hairy monster stand up and surround him first. At the same time, Sumo also greeted Chiron, and the two sides cooperated with each other, so as not to collide with each other because of this kind of thing. At this moment, the aristocrat still looked extremely painful. He seemed to have completely let go of himself. He even started to take off his expensive necklace on the street and started throwing it everywhere. These necklaces will quickly go away after that. But in the end, it was stopped by Farid and his long-haired monster warrior, and all these treasures were brought back. Sir, don't do it like this. We also know that you will be very painful and sad, but if you continue to toss like this, we will never turn over, not to mention, we will have the opportunity to return to the empire in the future. What is needed now is to recruit troops. Right beside this desolate aristocrat, there is an old man who seems to be very wise, affectionate and very sad. He seems to be a very thoughtful existence, and Sumo also noticed him at a glance. And being able to see the pain in his heart, he seems to be making a comeback, but it's easier said than done. While seeing this, Sumo also knew that the opportunity was coming, but it might take a little time how the body should seize the opportunity. The Pine Forest tribe and the Shaggy Monster cooperated with each other, and after their absurd interpretations on the street ended, they were brought directly into the hall. It seems that the aristocrat is also sober up in an instant, if there is still a lot on his face. In other words, it should be a very strange thing. Who are you? Why do you want to catch us? I didn't do anything bad, I just took a few sips of wine. Is this also wrong? When the nobleman said the words, his face became very ugly. He didn't know what was waiting for him, but Sumo still looked at him coldly and told him what might happen. You want more friends. I just think you are unique compared to them, so I want to communicate with you now. Would you like to tell me something? When Sumo said these words, there was something very strange on his face, and it was correct that he now knew what the nobleman was thinking. We don't want to tell you anything. We will never make trouble here. We just want to have a chance. It's better to be alive than anything else, and I hope you can understand us, and nothing should happen between us. Conflict. The old man's words were very direct. There was something very painful written on his cheeks. To be precise, he was a little flustered now. But how could Sumo give him the opportunity to continue to panic? On the contrary, he directly communicated with him at this moment, and said some things he knew now in a very calm way. You should be the descendants of a certain prince and aristocrat. You have been living here thinking about a good life. The past life has made you miserable, but there is no way to go back, right? But I can provide you with troops and let you can repeat the same mistakes. Sumo's words seemed to have some kind of peculiar charm. After hearing this, the old man was stunned for a moment, and then became even more silent. He knew that there were some things that he couldn't say. If he was a little careless, he would fall into the aristocracy, and he would fall into a catastrophe. Regarding Sumo, they would rather continue to think about it than agree to it. Maybe the words you said are useful, but we have our own ideas, and we can't get along with you, so don't say such words in front of us as if you were very smart, okay? The old man's words are also very direct. Just from his expression, you can see how much he hates Sumo now, and Sumo just continues to tell him about it. Stakes. Old man, you are really a ruthless person. The Ganges can stay like this at this moment. and most people are afraid that they can't do it at all, but I have to tell you that now you must think about the 23 method and do something. What? Opportunities are reserved for those who are prepared, not in a state like you are now. Sumo's words seemed to be mixed with many strange beings. After listening to the old man, he was quite frightened in his heart, but he didn't know how to reply. This kind of feeling is really unusual. For him, this is a good thing, or it is a kind of benefit that others can't think of. Sumo could see that the old man was a little shaken when he followed the aristocrats, and then Sumo added some very strange things while talking, and directly told them some of the thoughts in his heart now. Think carefully and see if there is anything wrong with what I said. The opportunities I can give you are something no one else can give you. If you really want to promise me, you only need to pay a little bit of resources. The strength of my troops, but one of my manpower is stronger than the other. Sumo's words were like the whispers of something. After listening to the old man, he thought of something even more. He desperately wanted to shake off the thought in his heart. But it's not that simple at all. In other words, he is now in a state of pain. After thinking about it, he decides to agree to Sumo's words. You seem to be a well-intentioned existence. To be honest, we also want to restore the glory of the past, but it is not that easy. Our empire has now been changed into an existence that does not belong to us, and we want to go back. I'm afraid there won't be enough people. After the old man said these words in pain, he looked at Sumo, trying to find more answers from his face, but at the moment, Sumo is so calm. Cold presence. All my men are elite soldiers and strong generals. As long as you are willing to pay the corresponding price, I can help you regain your throne in the shortest possible time. But one thing is, from today onwards, you must serve the Pinewood City-State. Can it be done? Sumo's words at this time are equivalent to some truly meaningful whispers to the old man. But the old man's heart is still uneasy about this kind of thing. He always feels that Sumo still has his own purpose, but he has not completely reached it. To tell the truth, the words you suddenly said had a huge impact on me, and I was even prepared to spend the rest of my life here, but you gave us a whole new hope. We also have to think carefully about this, and see what should be done in the future. Sumo hopes that there is no deception in your words. I am willing to sacrifice my life for this, as long as we can take back our empire and us. While the old man was speaking at this moment, he had completely entered a state of madness. This state frightened the down-and-out nobleman next to him, and he still didn't understand why the mouse was so angry. Uncle, things have come to this point and I don't want to go back. We have inexhaustible money in our hands and resources that can be squandered for 10 lifetimes. Why do we have to go back and suffer? If the throne is really taken away by cousins AA and the others, then let him do it. I want to see how he can manage that empire. The words spoken by the down-and-out noble at this moment made this existence he called uncle quite angry. Shut up. A little bastard who doesn't understand anything is just talking nonsense here. Do you know what kind of opportunity this is? This is a real opportunity that you will never get in your life. You can get back to you in this way. To regain your father's inheritance. Have you forgotten what your father told you at that time? After saying this, the old man looked even more angry, not only because of the loss of the throne, but also because the mud of the guy in front of him couldn't support the wall, and he showed a kind of anger. Very painful look. Farid, Chiron and Sumo watched their performance coldly. Although the situation is not particularly friendly, at least now they can reach mutual awareness on a certain level, that is to say, they very much agree with the next some things that might happen. After they thought about each other and discussed with each other, the old man finally determined his next plan, and told Su Yu again and again what might happen next. Sumo, we will do whatever you say. What I promise you is that I can fully take out all my resources, and at the same time you must send troops to aid us as quickly as possible. It also happened to be in line with Sumo's wish. The reason why Sumo took the initiative to help them was also very simple. It was because of the gemstone carried by the down-and-out nobleman, which was called the Dragonstone by the Pine Forest tribe. The restoration of the will of the world by this kind of stone is ridiculously fast. As long as the breath of this moment is released into the things of the will of the world at the right time, it will not take long. The degree of shaping of the will of the world will quickly increase. There is no problem, but you should understand a truth. The soldiers and horses are not moved. The food and grass go first. I hope you can take out your treasures and share them with me, so that my manpower will be more effective. Of course, what I need now are gems. It seems that Sumo said such words in a very casual manner, but his purpose is actually very important. The old man also thought it was nothing. The most indispensable thing in their country was 320 gems. As the largest producer of gemstones on the entire planet, they have always kept a low profile. All powerful countries need gems. They will manufacture and produce them as quickly as possible, and negotiate with them in the shortest time to obtain favorable conditions. No problem. Tonight, I will ask all my warriors to bring over our heritage. I hope you are a man of your word, and not a liar like other lords. The old man's expression was quite funny when he said the last two words. From his expression, it can be seen that he has been deceived in this way. By the way, what should I call your kingdom now? I think you can tell me some things directly, old man. I don't want to hear you say those useless lies in front of me. Sumo's words first made the old man realize that after thinking about it, the old man looked at Sumo's serious look, and after all, he didn't hide anything, but directly said the name of his empire. We are a kingdom that lives on diamonds, and many other tribes and trading groups call us the Kingdom of Diamonds. After hearing the words, Diamond Kingdom, Sumo's expression became sharper as if he had thought of something. This time, he absolutely had to seize the opportunity. In any case, the Kingdom of Diamonds should be controlled by him severely, and the information transmitted by Sumo in the simplest and most direct way was instantly transmitted by the dragon, Farid and the orc. Sumo told it very seriously. Figure out what they're going to do next for it, and get them to act fast. These three also had very curious thoughts. It was really wave after wave, and in an instant, it reached such a point that it was very different from what they thought. Saint. What exactly do you mean by your words? Could it be that we used your method to solve the problem a little bit too much? Or does it make me a little bit unclear about what you are thinking about in your heart? Can you be more direct if it is convenient for you? After hearing this, Sumo laughed instead. Be more direct. Isn't what he is doing now not direct enough? Finally, Sumo recounted his next request to them. I plan to use the attitude in your heart now to cause some damage to the enemy, and take all their benefits bit by bit into my hands. The Diamond Kingdom is something that each of us must speed up to win. Industry, you should understand. After the three of them listened to Sumo's heroic statement, they all fell silent for a few minutes afterwards. Yes, in fact, they all understood that Sumo was constantly collecting gems. There must be other uses, but he doesn't want to say it directly now. They are subordinates, so there is no need to ask Sumo for such a thing, but it will appear that they are a little suspicious. Since it is your request, Saint, then we have to carry it out for free, so you can rest assured that everything you said next will inevitably be the direction we are going to attack. Farid's words were more like some kind of determined swearing. After listening to it, Sumo was very satisfied with it. This is the attitude of the warriors he wants to see now, and being able to say such a sentence is even better. Has proved one point, the next action will be even more powerful. The old man and the noble boy are also fully prepared. They have been waiting for Sumo to arrange for them now, and send troops to solve the problem at the same time, but they can't wait for Sumo's appearance for the time being. All are anxious. The noble son is very aware of how much the old man has paid for this, and he already has the idea of retreating. This has actually become a dangerous state, and the old man really hated that iron was not steel when he looked at this declining noble. Regarding the state this kid showed, he really wanted to hit him with a hammer, so that this guy could understand how much he was paying. But some people still couldn't understand what they were doing at this time. You bastard. Do you know how much I paid for you? Now I have almost paid my all. After the old man's words came to this point, he directly and completely revealed an extreme appearance in an instant, and now he really wants to quickly explode his own power. Want to conquer a lot of existences for this, but is this useful? It will only waste time. It will only waste some things, and then the old man directly wants to take his weapon and hammer him at this moment. Let this little guy know what a fool he is doing now. At this moment, Kai Long came out, and it could be seen from Kai Long's expression that he was still very angry about what was happening in front of him. He knew the thoughts in the old man's heart, and he put a special suppression on it, hoping that the old man could be calmer at this moment. Only in this way would it be easier. I mainly didn't expect this guy to be such a waste, but then again, as someone who can control him, you really paid a lot, right? If it continues like this, I'm afraid you may not be able to bear it, or I will abolish him now, and let you not have any unreasonable thoughts about him. After saying these words, he immediately planned to attack this guy, but after all, he was suppressed by the old man. After thinking for a long time, he should let the old man deal with it. Forget it. I don't really hope that such a thing will happen, mainly because I have my own ideas about certain situations, and what I hope more is that you don't do things like Sumo anymore. What needs to be changed again? What do you think? It's a pity that the old man really doesn't dare to give up anything now. After reaching this point, the old man even feels that he has a lot of ways to do it. He didn't dare to break things like before, but at the moment he also had a lot of uncomfortable thoughts in his heart, as if after reaching such a point, he himself was directly stuck while doing some things. living. After seeing the old man's appearance, Kailong knew that the old man had to give up some of the thoughts in his heart. Anyway, it has already become like this, and it is not good to let some situations collapse. Let go of the fishing, it might be a good thing. Seeing that they were all calm, Kailong had nothing else to say. Then you can quickly lead the way. I also know that we don't want to delay existence. As long as things are dealt with, there will be no trouble. What I'm afraid of is that some people don't want to act with me and still want to continue to procrastinate, but it's meaningless if you look good. Kailong's words are still quite motivating. If there is any impact on this, it is that the old man is always a little bit unable to let go. He always feels that he may have done something wrong, which has led to a huge situation. The problem. This time, the Pine Forest tribe planned to personally intervene in this matter, and Farid and the orc boy didn't say much that it was the best for them to be their juniors. Just after the 10,000 warriors of the Pine Forest tribe had left the city-state, Sumo thought about it and felt that he should keep up and see what the big change was. He wanted to solve all the problems that should be solved as quickly as possible and take advantage of it, which was the most interesting to him. Farid is intercepting Sumo at this moment, and he hopes that Sumo can wait for a while before taking action, because the immediate matter will be very troublesome. It might even lead them to a dangerous state, and he hoped that what he could see would be easier and less threatening. The ridiculous truth is that now Farid and the orc boy were scared when they saw that Sumo was going to take the initiative. In fact, Sumo has always made his own judgment on such a thing, but Sumo doesn't want to let this kind of problem continue, because this kind of continuous and rapid damage will make them lose their backbone, which is definitely not an ordinary person can understand. I am very clear about your wishes and some ideas, but the degree of change in this kind of thing is not something we can easily understand, so we should wait when it is time to wait. Sumo's words have already caused them a great sense of unease, and he directly told them his current thoughts. He felt that when Chiron was doing something, it was very likely that he would go beyond his control. He doesn't want such things to develop in that direction, so he will continue to tell some things that he can understand now in a very direct way. And these things that can be gathered and changed are also quickly changed, and you don't have to worry about anything when you hold them in your own hands. Farid is still very clear about what Sumo is doing. If this is what Sumo has solved and asked for, he will never change it, if he has any ideas. It is better to think about how to make the situation smoother. After thinking of this, Farid also smiled coldly but expressed his support for Sumo. Saint, if this turned out to be your decision, then I will definitely not interfere too much. I just think I should remind at this moment that some people are watching our every move. Sumo naturally understands what Farid's words mean. Some of the people he said are also those eyeliners who were active in Songling city-state. They come from various forces. But they all knew that Su He was a very powerful person. Just as Sumo was moving forward and Farid was still thinking about something, Sumo's words came directly to his ears. Fared. You have to remember it for me, and now we will start to monitor our city-state. I think you should understand what I mean, and pay attention to all those who look wrong and make trouble, and I will find a way. Torment them. Sumo's words at this moment are so calm, but Farid feels that the things hidden in Sumo's words are indeed not simple. In other words, it means that Sumo is going to start some kind of action next, and the law is very satisfied, nodding his head, like Sumo guarantees that as long as it is within his control, it will never happen. Something that shouldn't happen. Saint, you can rest assured, I have always paid attention to those troublemakers, but I want to see what kind of skills they have and what kind of daring may in front of us. Crazy, I will take good care of them. Farid's words are full of evil, but Sumo doesn't care because it's the standard he wants right now. At the same time, he began to move forward with Kailong, but Ailong didn't know that Su Xing was following him. At the moment, Kailong also looked very proud and high-spirited. In his opinion, he has gradually brought all these things to a very interesting level. He delusionally thinks that he can help his opponent win the kingdom, and he will be rewarded by Sumo when he comes back. The old man was very disgusted while looking at Kailong's proud look, and the old man was looking at Kailong's proud look at the same time. There was a very disgusting thought. He didn't know Chiron's real strength, he just felt that the person sent by Sumo seemed to be very strong, but he didn't show what he should show. There was something in his heart. A little panic. I don't know why. When I feel your power, I can always think that you are not a person who really wants to help us in a certain sense. You are just for your ideal, for what you can. It's not good to get something like that. The attitude of this speech and the things that appeared in front of him made Chiron suddenly feel a little disgusted. It's very friendly and feels like kneeling and licking yourself. Master, I have always been a very fair person. You need my help at this time, instead of making some bad changes. I'm really angry with your current situation, you know. I'm helping you. When Kai Long said these words, his expression became very special, and he was already very unique. He has now begun to think about suppressing and changing the things he can see with his powerful strength, so that the old man also understands that it is not easy for him to help. After listening to Chiron's words, the old man laughed coldly. He didn't mean that he wanted to give Sumo or Chiron something to ask. Just when Kai Long wanted to use some other words to embarrass the old man, he suddenly felt the aura of slaughter that appeared in front of him. Someone was staring at him and was planning to attack him. Is this a problem for Chiron? Chiron first smiled, and then quickly ordered his elemental subordinates. Demonstrating a powerful force, each of these warriors burst out with a very powerful breath, and they still insisted on being ready for battle and subduing those evil guys. You guys want to play hard work, don't you? If you really want to do it, just come out directly. There's no need to hide your true strength in front of me. Besides, I also warn you, wait a while if something breaks out. If the crazy power wants to kill you, don't feel pity. It was like this when Kai Long spoke. He had a very powerful and special power, and he seemed to have found the opponent's weakness. Waving the weapon in his hand, he was about to attack him. These guys wearing straw clothes are all about 2 meters tall and look very strong, although it is said that Chiron has not had a conflict with this person for a long time. But after noticing their behavior, Kai Long also accelerated his attack techniques, facing the difficulties from the side, leaving a lot of damage in places they couldn't see. It almost made them more miserable for a while, but after all, there is still something, that is, these people don't understand at all, but directly and forcefully resisted Kai Long's attack. Well, is there no way you can avoid this kind of harm? The opponent's ridicule to Kai Long was almost on the line, and it was this naked taunting that caused an unnamed anger in Kai Long's heart. In the shortest time, Kai Long quickly hit the opponent with his own. You can't escape my grasp today. Do you really think I can make you live comfortably at this moment? The other party's words made Kai Long instantly realize that he seemed to have offended a ruthless person who shouldn't have offended, but at the moment Kai Long didn't have any fear. Anyway, he had already reached this point. He immediately faced all the warriors of the Pine Forest tribe and quickly released their power to fight them frantically. This time, no one was afraid of the other. It is very likely that he will have the upper hand in the frontal fight, but the other point is even more strange. Something happened. The old man and the declining noble wanted to slip away directly. Keep an eye on them for me, and absolutely cannot let them leave here just like that. I can feel the unease in their hearts now, but they definitely cannot leave in an instant. After saying these words, Kai Long changed the guy who continued to yell at him to fight even more frantically. However, it is obvious that his strength is still very strong, and the two sides are still fighting each other on a large scale in a certain state. The warriors of the Pine Forest tribe are also showing the strength they should show at this moment. They are still very strong, and they did not embarrass Chiron, but now Chiron can feel that they are wrong. This is more like a very dangerous thing. After that, how will they be transformed? May not be acceptable. It is impossible for you to turn over. What is waiting for you is my biggest attack right now. I will let you experience the feeling of being torn apart. You dare to communicate with those guys, so your demise is inevitable. It wasn't until now that Chiron realized that the opponent's attack speed was much stronger than he could have imagined. If this goes on, it's really hard to say what will happen next. Your combat strength is obviously not as strong as mine, but you still have to hold on. I don't know how long you can hold on forcibly, but I don't think it will take long before you will pay some pain that no one should have to bear. You must also bear greater pain for each other. This is an unbelievable darkness, and this darkness is rapidly changing on his body by himself. Because of such a kind of pressure, he can no longer support himself in his heart, and Chiron now really hopes that Sumo can help him in some way. It would be even better if Sumo was by his side. Sure enough, just above the level where Chiron was about to lose a little bit at the end, he suddenly felt Sumo's breath. This kind of breath enveloped him almost instantly, making him very relaxed. On the level that he didn't want to believe at all, another kind of power began to press on him very securely. Kai Long was saved by Sumo's breath, but at this moment he was still in that sluggish state. He didn't know how to describe it. I Long, it seems that your strength is still much weaker than you imagined. Come to deal with those people. Maybe you will be their opponent, but now you are a little bit lost, because I'm upset. Sumo's words were indeed a kind of blame for Chiron, but soon Chiron regained his fighting spirit. In the ensuing battle, Chiron did not complain to anyone. If at the same time he further uses some of his own power to forcibly support everything in front of him, he just wants to prove that he is an existence that can bear the responsibility, like Sumo continues to declare something. Saint. Although you saved me, it doesn't mean that I will bow to these monsters in front of me at this moment in the future, and I will let them know that you are the one who can truly carry everything in this world. In this way, it is very likely that things will become more exciting. Sumo hopes that Kailong can cheer up to face that evil guy. It seems that things will be successful after this point. But obviously, it was not as comfortable as he could have imagined in his heart. The other party became even more rampant after listening to Sumo and his subordinate Kailong. Because in his opinion, neither of these two people has any great strength, and it is impossible for him to be so comfortable. Then we don't want to talk so much nonsense anymore. The rest will be a kind of battle between us. I also want to see if you will be as good as I can be sure. Fierce, I have made the decision I should have. This is a competition in the true sense. After Taelong regained the center of gravity, he fought with him at the fastest speed, and fought more powerfully, and began to crush both of them together. This dangerous power made me really realize that you are not an easy person to mess with when you come to Chiron, but you also have to understand that I am no different from you. The opponent seemed to be in awe of him, so Kailong seized this opportunity and left a lot of damage on the opponent's body when the opponent was not paying attention, and made the opponent realize that this should not be done. Accidents happen. If anything dangerous will happen at this time, it is definitely not something he can understand now. On the contrary, it is in such a difficult state. Sumo can actually feel some things that he shouldn't feel, but he is still very calm now. When Kaoru was fighting with the opponent, Sumo just stood here and looked at the opponent coldly. Because Sumo can feel that when these things develop in the future, he will also have some bad conflicts with his opponents at the moment, but it is still impossible to say who is afraid of whom. At least the current Sumo is still can bear it. But this is also a big threat. Although the current Kailong is still relatively strong in combat, he has already been slightly defeated when he is fighting against his opponent. The old man and the desolate nobles seem to have combined resistance that is not as strong as imagined, and they have almost been buried in the hands of others several times, which is enough to make people feel very worried. Farid also came here in time with the long-haired monster to help. His purpose is also very simple, that is, he cannot let the old man and this poor aristocrat completely die. But the two of them can obviously feel a very dangerous power, showing them something that shouldn't be shown. You and your manpower have a strong desire to fight. If I want to continue to entangle with you at this moment, then the last person who will be injured will definitely be me. So now I choose to avoid your edge for the time being, and I will do the same. There's nothing wrong with it, right? When this guy spoke, he was very proud. He seemed to think that by speaking in such a way, he would be able to get out of the battle between Chiron and him in the shortest possible time. And he was ready to leave here, but Kailong continued to be ruthless at this guy at this moment, because Hailong felt that he had been insulted by this guy. You really take yourself so seriously. If you leave, you will leave me, and tell you that this is impossible. If you want to leave here without my permission, you are just looking for trouble. After Kailong's words came to this point, he suddenly burst out with a powerful aura, a force that made people feel more uncomfortable, and began to flow back and forth here. Obviously, the long sword in Chiron's hand is also attached to the power of the blue element. In Sumo's opinion, the current armored dragon has stimulated its own water element breath when fighting with the opponent. When the two were fighting at this moment, Hei also quickly let the orc boys slowly block the way of those sneak attackers. Just when this guy in front of him was fighting with Kailong, he suddenly realized that he couldn't escape from this place, and this feeling made him very uncomfortable. You guys actually play this trick of sneak attacking people, and you think you are some kind of upright gentleman. It seems that you are not much different from those happy people. It really makes people feel uncomfortable. After the other party said these words, he tore off all the disguise on his body. What followed was a peerless face and eyes like jewels, and Kailong fell instantly after seeing this girl. When the woman looked at the armored dragon, she couldn't help but feel something strange. She didn't know why she felt that the armored dragon was very familiar to her. But then her face immediately showed a very evil look. Yes, this is a kind of depression that people can't experience at all. The woman turned around and disappeared without a trace with her few remaining warriors, while Kailong still maintained a nympho look with some kind of anticipation, looking at the place where the girl in front had disappeared. Damn. How did you let that girl run away? If he can stay, we will be able to win a big victory. I really don't know what you think, brother. He is the chief warrior of the Diamond Kingdom. How many times more powerful than your subordinates? When the old man said this, his face also became very gloomy, but he quickly thought of himself, so talking like this is very likely to make Chiron angry. After all, now he is also relying on others, but if you think about it carefully, it is nothing. Anyway, it has reached such a point that those things are in danger or more things. He also doesn't take it all seriously, he has to recover his carelessness, and he can also feel that Sumo seems to want to help them. What happened to you just now, Kailong? Don't you think about that girl? I tell you, the more beautiful people like them are, the more ulterior motives they have. I'm afraid you haven't been able to follow them. They communicated well, and they fell for their tricks. Sumo's speech seemed very calm, and Kailong looked at Sumo's expression thoughtfully after listening, and couldn't help but become a little emotional. Sorry, Saint. I'm just thinking about why the situation just now is so weird, as if everything I know has no image and result anymore. I feel like my whole being is hollowed out. That girl's got some kind of weird sleight of hand. After saying such words, Chiron's expression became a lot more uncomfortable than before, which is what Sumo can see now. Just like Fu Kailong's whole body was hollowed out, such a strange situation also caused Sumo to have some doubts in his heart that are different from others. But soon this suspicion was dispelled, not to mention what happened after that. The more interesting thing appeared in front of him. The orc tribe was still relatively strong. Took 2 prisoners. Saint, these 2 people were caught by us. It seems that they still want to escape, but I have interrupted all their meridians, and they can only struggle in place now. The orc boy did this out of helplessness, because he could clearly feel that these hateful guys seemed to be fighting against him, but Sumo didn't blame him. Instead, you are very satisfied with dealing with this person. If you are not cruel, you will be bullied by others. This is unavoidable. Orc boy, you've done a great job. I'm very satisfied with your current state, but you should also be very clear about my various requirements for you now. You must hold your own heart and don't be attacked by others. This is Sumo's best affirmation for the orc boy, and the orc boy also showed a very satisfied appearance. He knew that in this world, no one like Sumo would be so friendly to him, and at the same time the orc boy secretly made up his mind. No matter what the future, no matter what the result will be, he will persist and use his own method to fight against those dark lunatics for a long time. In fact, from another point of view, the idea of the orc boy is quite good, but there is also a very strange fallacy in his idea. Ordinary people will never understand this kind of thing. At the same time, Chiron recovered from the shock just now. He seemed to have thought of something, and when he looked at Sumo again, he was very uneasy because he knew that he had done something wrong just now to make Sumo got angry. However, Sumo quickly forgave Chiron's judgment and practice. In his opinion, Chiron was just thinking for some of his own thoughts, which was not worth making him feel uncomfortable. Sage, I'm sorry. I was in a very painful state just now. In fact, I didn't expect that I would be such a sad existence, but I can adjust my state well. Ordinary people can't think of it at all, can it? Sumo doesn't think much about Kailong's state now, but thinks that this guy may indeed have a different attitude from others in his heart. At this time, after Sumo had some profound thinking, he looked at Chiron and told him a theorem, that is, don't trust other people's words when fighting, and stop. The state of yours just now is very likely to pull you into the abyss. The evil power shown by that woman is something you have never been able to face. Don't think too much, we can still encounter it when we go down. You'll have to take care of yourself in a while. After hearing these words, Chiron felt a little disapproval in his heart, but when he thought of what might happen, his whole person became silent again. He knew very well that the difference between Sumo and the others was that he would be very calm and like an old man. He was very serious about telling all the things he had faced. At this time, Kailong also knew the heavy responsibility he shouldered. It was very important to the Pine Forest tribe, so he sighed and turned to Sumo to express his sincerest apology. Saint, I'm a little bit emotional. When faced with many things, I always think of myself as the standard, but I never thought about it. This last series of endings will bring us to a contract state. Now I recognize the mistake, and I hope you can stop treating me in that bad way. Regarding the words that Kailong said now, Sumo also decided to give him a special education, and told him that he had no such thoughts. The next step is the old man leading the crowd to move forward. The more he goes to the Diamond Country, the more excited his heart is, and he can't help trembling. Those things that belong to them must be taken away completely. Absolutely not into the hands of outsiders. To be precise, after the woman escaped from the pursuit of Kailong and others, she immediately returned to the Diamond Kingdom. Although they were still called heroes within the kingdom, only this woman knew the battle best in her heart. It is a lost body. In the great palace within the kingdom, The usurped king was anxiously walking back and forth, with pain and helplessness written on his cheeks. As if this series of events were very dangerous for him, after seeing the woman, he couldn't wait to ask him what happened. Isn't the battle going well? Didn't you promise me before that this battle would be a whole new change? But why did you send me such news that you said you lost? The king looked very solemn, and his face was full of anxiety. In his opinion, in this battle, his eldest disciple Del led these top swordsmen to ambush the garbage of the previous session. He would not lose, but why? Losing so badly now. I'm sorry, the king. We didn't notice that they used some shady methods to ambush us, causing us to lose to them at the most critical time. But please believe that my staff is ready for the next step. I still don't believe it. Can they continue to fight us for another battle? When Del said this, he gritted his teeth and prayed that the king in front of him would not be angry in front of him. Of course, this was what he thought. Although this king said that he looked tall and big, but in fact, he was extremely dark in his heart. When he did anything, he would not consider others and only think of himself first. The king looked at Del's pitiful look and then smiled, and immediately ordered Del to go back and reflect at this time. I knew that you must have been influenced by them a little bit, but it doesn't matter. Who hasn't been hurt? I hope you don't do such a bastard thing next time, because you will make me treat you like this more disgusting. After the king had spoken here again, he turned around immediately, and at the same time beside the king, a young man was looking at Del with a very serious look, and she was the one who stopped temporarily. Down. I can see clearly that you had a very violent fight with a man named Kylong, and you seem to have lost. The words spoken by this prophet-like existence made Del, who was originally calm, instantly full of anger. He had already lost, and he heard it just now. Why should he repeat it now? He really wants this guy in front of you to be torn to shreds, but if you think about it, now is not the time. If you do it like this, the result may not be so friendly. What do you mean by that? Are you trying to stress me in a certain direction? You're wasting your time by doing this, I tell you. Del's words were mixed with anger towards the person in front of him. The latter didn't think so. He felt that Del was probably corrupted by Sumo and others. The so-called saint in the Pine Forest City-State seems to have some ideas about you, and I can also see that you have a tendency to cooperate with that saint, but you haven't made the preparations you should do now. You are very confused, right? Bar?